Standard Gains Podcast, episode 16, take 1.
Here we go. And as of right now, we are going towards 200,000 views, subscribers, listeners, downloads on every single platform. Thank you guys so much. We also heard your responses to us being sort of consistent and uploading every single Saturday or Sunday, and you guys really getting into that routine, which is really epic, and we really want to make sure you guys are able to do that. So we're going to be as consistent as possible every single time on Sunday. So make sure to check us out also on Instagram, so you can follow us and get updates on when a new podcast is live, so you can listen to the podcast when you're on your way, maybe every single Sunday, or on the at the gym or stuff like that. So really get that flow in, and we would love to see you back every single podcast. And today
we are going to be speaking about how much money should you be saving at every single age. Now, this is a topic that we both find super interesting. We've seen several videos on this topic as well, and we really want to give you our 2 cents, our thoughts about this topic.
Exactly. It's an extremely viral topic, and there's a lot of interest in there by people seeing, hey, where am I at in life right now? What am I compared to the average or the median? And it's super viral, but we do think we can add our thoughts here and look at the facts, but also at these sort of nuances that are there and need to be considered before really being like, oh, I'm not on track, or I'm completely on track, because it also depends on your goals.
Exactly. And maybe just to start with that a bit, is what we will be discussing is basically the average or the median, and we'll get into the difference in a second. And keep in mind that that is the average of the entire population, and that doesn't necessarily mean that that is what you should be doing or you should be comparing to. So it really depends on your goals. What kind of lifestyle do you want to be living? When would you want to retire? And depending on that, you can see, okay, if that is my goal, let's reverse engineer and let's see where I should be right now in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, and all of those things.
We're going to stick to sort of the two biggest parts of people that are searching for this, and that's the US and sort of Europe, the Netherlands, that we know more about. The difference between average and median.
Yes, well, the average, of course, is just everyone. You add everything up, and then you look at the average. What is the average of everyone in a single country? When you look at the median, what you do is you basically would align everyone in one big line. So the people who have the least amount of money or net worth will start here, and with the most start there, and you look what is the exact middle. So where is the person which is exactly at 50% of the entire population? And there's a very big difference in this, because this way you get rid of the people who are super, super, super wealthy and the people who might be super high in debt. Now, we will see that it's mainly the part which is super wealthy that makes a big difference, because that is more realistic. If you look sometimes at the average, as you will see during this podcast, we don't think that's very realistic to have that at certain ages as an average. So that is important. But before we do this, we have dilemmas.
Definitely, we have dilemmas. So this one is very interesting. We could have the same one.
All right. Spend your 20s, 30s, and 40s really hustling and working hard to save up for a nice retirement and do whatever you want in those years. Or spend already in your 20s and 30s, make sure you have enough time to really enjoy life and save a bit less.
Okay, so this is very similar to what I had.
That's what we were thinking.
That I had in mind. Save less.
Okay.
So I would like to ask sort of the same question to you.
Yep.
Would you really focus on this list that maybe we're talking about and really focus on being on point with basically are you compared to the average? Or would you more like not really focus on the average and just do your thing because you might have the knowledge for all the financial situation that you're having, or that you just want to enjoy life more because you're still fit and you don't want to wait till you're like 60?
Yeah, so I think the last one for sure.
The last
so
one.
Don't wait.
Yeah.
And I think it's also, this might really depend per person a bit, but we'll get into, of course, the nuances. So first, okay, so you said save less, enjoy life, which I think is interesting, because as we record this, we were actually in France last week, about a week ago, and I think it's safe to say that for you, it's pretty hard to let go and enjoy. Well, you mean you enjoy what you do, but really, you are really doing the work hard right now.
Yeah, so that's why I found it like, I thought you were going to say that.
Yeah.
So the thing is, I'm luckily still young. I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not 60 yet, almost. But the thing is with the 60, I find that if you're going towards 60, 70 and really play the sort of retirement game, then you're going towards like 60. That's you're there's a lot of stuff that you can't do in the probably like I think you will enjoy stuff more maybe when you're 30, 35, 40, 45, like below 50, I guess. And you can do a lot more stuff without maybe feeling tired. But again, it is also about how fit you are. So
Yeah.
it's a bit, but
Yeah,
I think that's just
some people listening right now who are in their 50s thinking, what are you talking about? Not at all. But okay, continue.
but also throughout the years. So really like within your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and not just wait living until you're
Exactly.
60. So really just doing it throughout. So yes, right now I'm really on that like working phase. But it mainly has to do with the big projects that I'm working on right now. And yeah, they take like a long time. They have been taking a long time and they're still taking a long time. And maybe that is part of the journey. So you would have to say at some point, you're right, I'm taking a break from this really big project, but I really want to finish them now. And I also have a lot of deadlines. So I'm sort of...
Yeah, but let me stop you right there. You basically have those deadlines because they're also partly self-imposed deadlines. You could choose, hey, I want to reach 2 million YouTube subscribers this year, or it's also fine if I have it halfway through next year and the projects may take a bit longer, but I will do more trips. That is a choice. There's not a good or a bad choice, of course. And I know that you're right now thinking, but I'll lose momentum, or right? Because that's how we normally think.
basically.
But of course, it's always, and this is very specific to you, but there's always a choice of, I will let it just last a few years. Maybe it takes a few months longer to reach my goals, a few years, but I'm going to enjoy the whole process and things more in general.
Yeah, that's what I want to go a little bit more towards as well, but also stick to certain projects and also deadlines that I don't really have sort of the control over. So right now I have a deadline for like a course that's coming up. Yep. I want to get that out as soon as possible because it's been taking too long already, or not too long, just been taking very long. And right now is the time, because if we're going to sort of launch it after summer, it's going to be too late for the momentum of the course. So that's why we want to do it before summer. But also just deadlines with companies that we just have signed contracts with. Yeah. So we need to get everything
of course.
done.
But I mean, that's for now. But also in the future, when you sign a new contract, you can always think about those deadlines in a different way.
Yeah.
But again, this is very specific to you. But I 100% agree with you that you should really make sure to enjoy life, your whole life.
Yeah.
You know, and it's super cliche, but you never know what's going to happen. You know, even outside of your control, maybe you get sick or there's an accident or whatever. And of course, you always hear, if you ask old people what's the thing you regret, is they say, I should have enjoyed life more when I was younger. Super cliche, all of these things. But I do think it's true. And it's very easy, especially if you're a business owner, to just drown yourself with work.
Exactly. So that is sort of the... It's very hard. I do think everyone would say, yeah, I want to enjoy life throughout my entire life. Yeah. But actually doing it 100% is almost impossible, at least for me. Right. And I know that's just...
of course. And then when it comes to your dilemma, I guess it is, you know, it's the list that we're going to discuss is nice. And it's nice to see where you are. But I think one of the main issues right now in society in general is people comparing themselves to others, and especially when it's the bullshit on social media. So I think it's always important, really know why you do things, again, really choose the path that you want to be following and where you want to be in life at certain points in your life, and then see, hey, are my actions that I'm taking helping me reach my goals, or am I really behind? So then change your behavior. And I think that's more important than looking, oh wait, but on average 25% should have this much, and I'm here, so I should push more. Like,
exactly. So it's basically sort of the same answer. Enjoy life also with the knowledge you have, but don't compare yourself too much. Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, so talking about that, how much should you shaved up when you're like around your 20s? Well, interesting enough.
So in the Netherlands, people have around 20,000 in uni college debt, and in the United States, even 30,000.
30,000. And I also read that it also obviously depends on what kind of study you do. And if we're going towards studies that require some medical, college degrees or stuff like that, then it could sort of like go up to a few 100K even, like 100, 200K, which is crazy to me. In the Netherlands, they also sort of stopped funding it a few years ago, like really hardcore funding it. And right now you see a big difference, but it's not something compared to like 100K or something like that. Still an insane amount of money.
I think only if you want to become a pilot, because you have a lot of cost in flying planes and all those things. That's probably the only one. But yeah, I think it's a lot of money that people are in debt. But at the same time, you are in your 20s. So if you choose to take the path of university or college, because of course that's a choice, you can also decide, hey, I want to be a business owner, I want to do something else. Then that is probably the consequence. But I think you should see it as an investment for your 100%. Future, because your salary should also be higher because you went to uni.
Exactly. So it is 100% an investment into the future, also in knowledge, which can be just interesting in general, but also, again, make you get a higher salary in the long run. So if you are around your 20s or in your 20s and you are over around 20 to 30, like you have more than 20 to 30K in debt, so you actually have a higher net worth, it's getting confusing because we're talking about minus numbers. But if you're doing good. So if you're below 20 or around your 20s and you don't have any debt, that is good.
Yeah, maybe good you mentioned, and I also mentioned before, net worth. Net worth is all of your assets, so everything that you own minus all of your debt. So if you have a house worth 200,000, but you have a mortgage of 150,000 and you have no money in the bank, your net worth is 50,000. Value of your house, all your assets minus the debt that you have is 50,000.
Exactly. So if you buy a house, it's not like you're going into debt instantly because your house has a worth as well.
Yeah.
So that's your assets.
I think maybe one more important thing here to say is, I think even in your 20s, it is important to start thinking about putting money aside for your pension. Because one of the reasons why we go over this topic is because of, you want to save up for retirement. And without getting deep into the topic, I think the current system that we have in the Netherlands for your pension is not sustainable long term. So I think it's very important to secure your own future. And we've had a podcast about this, about how to invest. Just by starting to put $100, €100 every month, even if it's 50, into ETFs and putting it away when you're 20, that's going to change your life when you're 70, 60,
exactly.
70.
So sort of creating emergency funds and also just normal funds for when stuff happens that you really didn't have in your power, or also just when you feel like I need this money to go either like on a holiday and don't sort of wing it and really be like, oh, I have like 2K in my bank account right now, I can use 1K to go on holiday. No, you have saved up for that. So that is the way of thinking. Exactly. If you start with that in your 20s or even before that, that is, well, only better, because we have talked about this in that podcast as well. Compounding, the more years you are investing or the more years you are saving up, the more money you in the end will have. So
exactly.
That is it basically for your 20s. So if you're around your 20s and you're not in debt or you are in debt, it's all fine and it's all normal, but you don't expect like the median to say something like 100K here.
No.
So, and actually, funny enough, if we're working towards the 30s, in your 30s, around 30, you're getting rid of that, and around 25, 30s, around 10K is the median net worth. And if we're going to compare that to the average is already a lot higher. The average is around like 76,000, something like that.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So there you see the big difference between median and average, right? Because there's some people who have so much money at this age, they really pull up sort of the average, and that's why we believe we should be looking at the median just to see, and the difference will get much bigger as we get older. Now, I think it's interesting what you say, because of course you say you're getting rid of the debt. I know that most college uni debts, you have like 20 to 30 years to pay it off. So I think an important thing is also you don't need to fully focus on just paying off. It is also fine because normally, again, we only know the situation here, you hardly pay any interest over this debt. So if you find something to invest in which gives a better steady return, then that might be worth and might be smarter than getting rid of that debt.
Yes, exactly. Getting rid of debt doesn't mean like you have around 30K in college debt and you are sort of trying to pay that off. And in your 30s, you have $0 because you paid everything off. Yep. No, you can, at the same time that you're sort of saving up 100 per month, you can also pay off 100 a month. And you can do that simultaneously and really build up sort of your saving account and also pay off your debt just slowly. I mean, you can do it if you have debt from your 20s and you can pay that off in your 30s. I think that's completely fine. Maybe even some people pay it off in the 40s. Completely, just because they can, and there's not a lot of interest, and they can better save their money somewhere else, or even put it into the stock market or in a house, stuff like that. So that's very important.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to know what stage of life are you in. That's something that we've kept saying. In your 30s, one of the things that can happen, I mean, some people even have it in their teens, but like in your 30s, kids.
You can have kids. Yeah, exactly. So children. And unlike a building or a house, this is not an asset, even though it requires a lot of investment, and you're not gonna get, well, probably not short term, and that should never be like the sort of thought behind it, an investment, and that's not what it is. So it's gonna cost you a lot of money. I think on average, a kid is costing you 80,000. I think I've read that somewhere recently, and I think it can be even a lot more. Till 18, from 0 to 18.
I think it was even more, but I'm not sure.
That's a very interesting one. But so it's a lot of money, and if you don't have kids, I mean, your life goes completely different probably. But yeah, you can probably save a lot more. So
Yeah, and it's pretty funny because I know quite a lot of people, men and women, who say, "Hey, I want to have kids a bit later because I really want to focus on my career." So if that is you, and again,
nothing.
that's a perfectly valid choice. That means that you probably can save more, can make more, can progress more in a business, compound more, exactly, and that way you sort of really. So that's different for people who out of uni just work for a few years, get kids, then it will be different. So I think that's important to know. One more fact that we found is you can look at two things. We're looking at the median. There's also sites and a lot of things people say this is how much money sort of you should have if you look at the yearly salary. So they say in your 30s you should have about 1 year worth of salary saved, which is the average is about $50,000 to $55,000 in the US.
Yeah, exactly. So that's very interesting. And I think that is somewhat true because you also need to look at expenses and also look at sort of the emergency fund that we talked about. In case that something happens that is out of your control, you should have sort of saved some stuff up in order to not like have to go find another house because your house is too expensive or your rent is too expensive or stuff like that. And you can sort of live off of everything you saved for an entire year, basically, in order to sort of find a new job, maybe start a business, stuff like that. So that's a very valid point to look at. But that's it for your 30s. So we're working our way up, and the more we're working our way up, the less most of you can probably compare. We know our audience a little bit younger, but this is where I found it super interesting to see, hey, I'm in my 20s. Let's look the further we go, how are my thoughts compared to what I thought actually? Because I've never thought about this before sort of doing the research here. Like, what is the average or the median of a 60-year-old or a 70-year-old or a 50-year-old? And I think this is very fun to see where you're at right now and if it's doable to get there or if it's even easy to get there. So that's just a very interesting thought. Even for my dad here.
Thank you, son.
Oh, okay. So we had a photo on Instagram, and we posted a very good picture in a workout in a calisthenics park.
Yeah.
This guy is ripped. This guy is big. This guy is fit. And the first comment was, "Damn, your dad is ripped." This guy's not my dad. Not even close. It would be you would have been a very young dad, I guess. Very young.
Could be possible. I mean, age-wise. Okay, we're drifting off topic too much here.
Yeah. In your 40s, you should have around 91K, or that is the median. The median. So we talked about debt. It could be the case that you got rid of all your debt, or at least like the uni debt or college debt, and also maybe like your house. You're paying off your house. I know a lot of people in the Netherlands that only pay off their house when they're like 60s, 70s, or never even pay off their house, which is really interesting. They gave loans to people, which is actually my aunt. She bought a house with, I think, back in the day, the houses, like the house prices skyrocketed. Yeah. But back in the day, it wasn't an insane amount. But let's say 100K. Yep. She literally paid off nothing. She only paid interest. Only interest and paid off nothing. And now it was like 30 years later, wait, I need to pay off a decent amount of money. Yep. So they're taking a new loan.
Yeah, I mean, those loans are no longer allowed over here.
They're not allowed.
That makes sense. But yeah, keep in mind, we're looking at net worth. So even if you still have all of your student debt, but you have a lot of saving, or you have stocks, or you have real estate, your net worth can still be around that number. So I think that is important to know. And I think your 40s is really a time that you can really start investing and saving, and this is where you can start making the big steps towards your retirement. Because keep in mind, and that's why that, have 1 year of sort of salary is interesting as well, is because if you want to retire at a certain age, you will need quite a bit of money. Yes, the government may pay you something, maybe there's a pension fund you're in, but you need that money. So slowly start saving up for your retirement is very important.
Yes, exactly. So we also talked about how much you should have saved up compared to your salary. 1 times your salary in your 30s, and if I read here, by 40, 3 times your income, your salary. Yep. So that is already sort of rapidly going up, and that's exactly what we said. In 10 years, you should have sort of tripled the amount that you've saved up, which is normal because it's a span of 10 years. But yeah, you should be considerate about saving up because I know.
But if you think about that, that means that you want to save about 30% of your salary every single year.
Basically, yeah, exactly. So that's a fair statement because 10 times, exactly.
But if you put money in stocks, which normally give about 7% return as well. So that's the way to do it, I think. Just putting it in a savings account. Again, look at the video that we have on the podcast that we have on investing. But yeah, I think just putting it in a savings account is not the way to go.
Probably not. It will be a lot of money to invest 30% of everything you earn every single year. But I mean, some people can do it. And if you even compound it, like we talked about in that podcast, then definitely go that way. But I find it interesting that the more we go up, like obviously it goes exponentially up as well, the amount that you should have saved up. That is true, but if you look at the current society or the current way of thinking, there's not a lot of people that sort of compound money in stocks there are a decent amount of people, but not everyone is doing it. So for this to be the median or the average is interesting to me.
No, definitely. And I think that is one of the issues, but it's very easy to drift off to a different topic now, that people should be learning at a much younger age. And that's also why we discuss this a lot. There's other podcasts which discuss this. Unfortunately, the schooling system doesn't really teach you how to do this. But it is important to start investing. If you can in your 20s, I understand that for a lot of people you can't. In your 30s, you should be able to start. And in your 40s, you really should be able to put money aside, because you should be, if you are in a corporate job, should be going up the corporate ladder, so your salary is going up. If you are building your business, your business should be growing every year, should be going up. So I think there's a lot of reasons why this isn't time and age where you can really start investing and saving.
Exactly. And the thing is, I mean, years and 50s, 40s, we talk about so much stuff, and also your business should be growing. There are plenty of examples of people starting a business that were like 53, 60, and now they're like KFC, stuff like that. So they are like an insanely big corporation. So everything depends on the person. But if we look at the median or the average, yes, you should be. And if we're going towards 50s, which is where we're going right now, you should be going towards peak salary. And the average or the median is 168,000. That is your net worth. So that is all your assets minus all your debt, and that is a decent amount. But if you look at the average here was above 1 million.
Yeah, and that's also why we said, when we saw this graph, we said, okay, we're not gonna look at the average, because it's just 1 million is not very realistic as an average person to have saved up in your 50s. That's just, let's be honest. We have people here who have billions, and they really put that average so much higher. So that's why when we saw this, we have to go for the median.
We have to go for the median. But the median is just basically the right average when you look at this.
Yep.
And that is very interesting, because I think 168K, when saving properly, should be very doable.
Even if you are in your 30s and you buy a house, let's say you buy a house when you turn 30, and normally your mortgage takes 30 years to pay off. So you should have paid off 2/3 of your mortgage. So 2/3 of the value of your house should now be within
Paid
your
off.
net worth. So if you look at it that way, looking at, especially over here, the house prices, your net worth should easily be that.
You should easily, that's
If you are capable of buying a house when you're 30. I mean, that is right now, I understand that's a very big issue for a lot of people probably listening.
Exactly. And also getting the loan to even buy it and stuff like
Exactly.
that. But still, if you look at putting away 30% is maybe a lot. We just talked about that. But if we were going for maybe like 20% that you earn every single year, you can stack that away. 20% is a lot.
But even then, if you make 50K, a year, you put away 10K a year, which is 100K per 10 years. So you should be much higher. And that's also why the other one is interesting, because the other one said you should have 3 times your income when in your 40s. And how much is that in your 50s? Do you have that number?
By age 50, 6 times your income.
Exactly. So that is much higher than the median, which also means is what they say this should be perfect to have. Or you already see that, okay, that's not what the median is. So what the person
6
in the middle
times your
has.
income, that is around 300K if we're going for like a 50K salary. So that should be around 300K net worth. And that's what you...
I think that should be possible.
That should be possible. And that is, the website here says saved up. I'm not too exactly sure if they mean net worth or saved up in terms of having that in your bank account or in stocks or something like that. So you can have sort of an emergency fund. Is that 300K emergency fund is a big emergency fund.
That's a bit too much.
That's a bit too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we look at the 50s, I would say that sums that up. And it should be very doable to get the median. And if you look at what does median mean, what does it really get you in the real world? I would say 168K would not be. You will be not be. Would it get you where you want to be in life?
I mean, that's hard to say. Depends
That's
on the
very
goals.
hard.
But let's put it this way. In your 50s, you have, let's say, 10, 15, 20 more working years. And after that, you want to retire and have 20, 30, hopefully 40, 50, of course, depending on how old you're going to get, years where you can actually live off the money that you have saved and the pension that you're getting. And if that is 150K, okay, maybe you can double it in the next 20 years. You know, you don't have that much money to spend every single year.
I think with 168K in net worth, you would definitely maybe having like to sell your house in order to get to sort of the phase where you wanted to live off of all that. So yes, you will be on track with 168K, but looking at the median, should probably be a little bit higher. And also in terms of saving up money, I mean, 168K saved up in usable money or in stocks is a decent amount. But at your 50s, saving up starting from your 20s,
yeah.
I mean, that's why we're talking about compounding and starting young.
Yeah, exactly.
Around 20. So if we're going towards 60s, you're around 60 years old, 212 is the median average. And you can see that is actually a decent jump in 10 years' time from 168K to 212K. And by age 60, you should have 8 times your income.
And I think that makes sense. And I think that's definitely possible. Again, you know, in your 50s, in your 60s, probably the children, if you had children, they're out of the house, so you can really focus more on saving or making very cool trips. Think back about the dilemmas. That's a perfect time also to make cool trips, to do a lot of things. And I think it makes sense that you can really save here. You should also have a pretty good position in the business. If you've been working somewhere for a while, your business can definitely be very profitable at this point. So I think that is more than doable.
100%. So in your 60s, and I think if you're going to be thinking about your pension at this point, it's already
too late.
Yep. It's going to be around, obviously, because the average here in the Netherlands, 67 years old or towards the 70, it is going to be quite tight to get sort of saved up. And with the current pension system that we have right here, it's going to be hard to sort of live the way you probably want to. And again, look back at the 20s. You probably would have wanted to start around there. So if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and you haven't started, start right now. Just saving up. We're not telling you buy this ETF, buy this, buy that. You can just do your own research, but also just save it up. So the amount of people that I see that are a little bit older that have not saved anything up in the same sort of, shout out to my aunt. I mean, I respect, you're amazing, but just not thinking about the long term, like, oh, wait, I actually need to pay this off, or just sort of, she probably thought about it, but sort of put that thought off and without worrying about it. And, oh, damn, I need to be paying it off. And like the next year, I probably should be getting a new loan because I can't pay 150K in at once right now, which is understandable. Yeah. Just thinking about it long term is always the way to go.
I 100% agree. And I think that is, little side step here is, if I think back about the holiday rental that I bought last year, basically it's a 200,000 euro investment. But I know that the rent that I'm getting is fully paying off the interest and the mortgage. Yeah. So in about 20 years, I have, so I see that as a way of saving. Because every month there goes like 600 euros in repaying the mortgage. So that's 600 euros I just put away as saving. So in 20 years, I will have whatever that house is worth.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
As money. As saved up, and that's your net worth. Exactly. So if you did not think about that at all, and you would have just lived your life, then you would have missed out on that money. Maybe you wouldn't have been the sad guy, but no, but still, that's a lot of money that I'm sort of making, almost passively,
or passively, or missing out. If you wouldn't have made the decision. So that's a great way to think about it, and also just think about certain ways of investing. Whatever fits you, whatever you like, and whatever you find safe or safe enough for your profile. Because some people like it spicy, some people like it very safe. Exactly. So that's very interesting. Around your 70s, well, 70 plus actually, so 70 and older, 250K is the median. And this is already past your maximum when we look at the average net worth. If we look at the average net worth, around your 50s, it was around like 1.1 million, 60s, 70s, 1.2 million. And if we're going like 70 plus, 75 plus, which is where we're working towards right now, it is below a million, just below a million on the average. And also the median net worth goes down from 212,000 to 266,000 and then drops down to 254,000.
So I think this makes sense. And I think this is if I think about the generation probably who's like in their 70s now, I'm speaking to the people that I know, they were raised in a way like you have to save a lot, you have to be sort of careful with your money because, of course, their parents lived through world wars, through other things where there was a lot of adversity and there was a lot of issues.
Yeah.
So I know that for those people, normally they have quite some money saved up, but they really should enjoy that life. You don't, in my opinion, you've worked your entire life super hard to do this. You've saved up money, enjoy it. Don't think I should keep saving it. It should go to my children. Sure, it's amazing to be able to help your children, but it's even more amazing to enjoy those lives and those years that you have right now in retirement by doing exactly what you want, and you don't need to keep saving.
Exactly. So really focus on sort of you've earned it, and that is more to the generation right now that is 70 plus. But also a way of thinking for people that are not and that are working towards that age. Let's just call it like that.
Yeah.
You're getting older. Make sure you have already lived the life, but also make sure you still can. So that's why we're talking about saving up right now, and why I think this is a very interesting podcast. Who knows, someone out there really has a lot of benefit from this, and really thinks, wait, I should be thinking about the 70 plus years and really start investing right now. And when you're 70, come back to us and be like,
Exactly.
wait, guys, I lived my life. And that is basically the entire funnel that we wanted to work towards. Is make sure to be considerate of your savings. Make sure to save. Make sure to think about your future, but also be in the moment and live. And also don't think about your children too much. No. That is definitely not. It is amazing, like Bob said, to think about your children.
Yeah, but you should also live your own life.
Because if we look at the sort of phase of life, we will be thinking about, all right, so I'm gonna be working to live at the end of my life. And if you're at the end of your life, you're gonna be sort of thinking, wait, I'm just gonna try to save for my children.
Yeah.
Let's say everyone does that. Then you have literally no one living their life. If you go to the entire cycle, no one is living their life. So
no, definitely.
That is just a thought to go home with.
And I think one more time, just to repeat this, yes, we've said a lot of numbers, we've said a lot of things. Don't compare yourself to it. Think to yourself, okay, well, it's always fun to compare yourself. Where am I? But it doesn't mean you're doing necessarily good or bad. Think about, when do I want to retire? What kind of life do I want to live? How much money does it cost? And there's a funny little thing, research that's saying that actually you do not need any more than 5,000 a month to be perfectly happy. Anything more will not really change your life significantly.
5K a month net would be enough to either rent or buy a very nice place.
Yeah, go on amazing holidays.
Go on really amazing trips. Go out regularly enough for you to feel like you're not missing out on restaurants, buying enough stuff that makes you feel like you're not sort of watching the small ones, the pennies. And I think that is very true. 5K a month.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, you can say, hey, but if I would make 100K a month, I could buy a super sick car. And sure.
A yacht.
But a yacht. We were in Saint-Tropez just last week, where there were yachts worth like hundreds of millions.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That just blows my mind. But sure, that is cool to have that supercar. But is it really going to change your life? Not really. The big change in your life will be going from 2,000 a month to 4,000 a month.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a much bigger change of life than going from 5,000 to 10,000 a month.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's also important to know. And just keep an eye on, what do I want, and how much time do I want to spend on making that much money, and all those things. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, and we will actually see you next week.
Baba booey.